The Atlanta Braves took down the Chicago Cubs 5-2 in their series opener on Tuesday night in Truist Park. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. He's the host of Locked On Braves, Jake Mastriani. And Jake, if I told you before the game that you would have to come from behind in a game where Grant Holmes, Didier Fuentes, Dylan Lee, and Raisel Iglesias combined to throw a one-hitter, I don't quite think you would believe me, but that's exactly what happened here. I want to talk about the offense. I want to talk about the bullpen being so good, including Fuentes in relief. I want to start off with the happy thing. We're not going to start off with Grant Holmes. We'll talk about Grant Holmes. But the happy thing I want to talk about to start this game is this was really a triumph of the bottom of the order. Like, Drake Baldwin had a very important double. He scored a run. Matt Olson went 1 for 4, some stuff. But the bottom of the order, Austin Riley goes 2 for 4 with a home run. Dom Smith goes 4 for 4, all singles. Mike Yastrzemski goes 2 for 2, drives in 3, and has his first Atlanta Braves home run. Ha-Seong Kim got on base. He goes 0 for 3, but he does draw a walk. But I remember thinking when the Cubs lineup came out, holy cow, that is a deep lineup. Like 1 through 9, Swanson at 8, PCA at 9, they can get you. That's a deep lineup. But when Atlanta's lineup is able to give you stuff like this from the bottom of the order, am I wrong for saying it feels like they're almost unbeatable?
Yeah, when they get stuff like this, we talked about it. It was the first game in LA, the game they lost, where nobody at the top of the order did anything. And it's hard to win games when that happens, but not when you're getting production like this from the bottom of the order. And it's kind of crazy. We have to include Austin Riley's name when we talk about the bottom of the order too, but that's just where he is right now. And look, he's coming through and he's played much better here as of late. So hopefully he's starting to come around and get out of it a little bit. Dom Smith, I mean, dude basically gets taken out of the lineup for a week, just nothing he could do about it because of the Michael Harris injury. Comes back, maybe a little bit of a rusty start there, but now he's back to just hitting balls into the gaps. It's just truly remarkable what he's done this year. And even Ha-Seong Kim, like you said, he goes over 3 with the walk, but he also had 2 hard hit balls in this one in his first game back. And great,
really good defensive plays.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's huge because if he can stick there at shortstop, it allows you to obviously do, many things with Mauricio Dubon and move him around. And then the big sigh of relief for Mike Yastrzemski. Like, hopefully this really gets him going and kind of take some of that pressure off of him a little bit. But man, what a huge relief for him to finally get that first home run.
Is there any response from Jake Mastriani to the accusation that Mike Yastrzemski only hit the home run because you threatened to hold him out of the lineup?
Yeah, it works. I mean, that's like the 3rd or 4th time this year that it's worked. I'm the best at I'm the best at reverse jinxing. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Whoever you want me to talk about next, I don't know who's struggling right now at the moment. I think we've gotten Riley going a little bit here. We've gotten Yastrzemski. I mean, that was the biggest task. So maybe a Grant Holmes, who maybe we'll get to later. Maybe I can get him going too.
Yeah, I want to talk about the bullpen here real quick. We'll go to break, and when we come back, we'll do Grant Holmes. We're doing the compliment sandwich, people. Okay, so the bullpen here, you have to cover 5 innings. Didier Fuentes, Dylan Lee, Raisel Iglesias. No hits. No runs, clearly. 1 walk to 4 strikeouts. And I know that right now you're trying to run a 6-man rotation because you have this long stretch of games. And so Fuentes covers 3 innings for you to make this the length of a really good start. Am I wrong for thinking that if you have another situation like this with Grant Holmes, where we can go ahead and talk about it now if we want, when he gets to the second time through the order is when everything starts to fall apart? Am I wrong for saying that this should just always be the plan, is we're going to throw Holmes and Fuentes back to back if we give Holmes a start?
I mean, I think it's definitely a way that you could go. I talked about it last week, piggybacking him with, either Martin Perez or Fuentes. Just the only reason I say Perez is just it gives you a lefty to come in. So if they, had a left-handed heavy lineup coming into it, you make them kind of flip it and use their guys early. But certainly Fuentes and the way that he threw today, I mean, maybe one of his best appearances as a big league pitcher, the way that he threw the ball today, he looked really impressive. I don't even know. I know in the past it's been the issue with Grant Holmes the second and third time through. Mm-hmm. I feel like it hasn't been an issue, at least earlier in the season. I feel like it's just more of an issue that it might be the first inning, like it was in Colorado. It might be the third inning. It might be the fifth inning. But at some point, he just has that inning in the game where just completely falls apart for him. And so, the Braves have all these long relievers. They got Lopez, they got Perez, they got Fuentes, although I don't know that you want to be using Raylo too much in these situations right now. But you have these guys who can give you some length. So I think it makes sense if you can play it that way to have some guys ready to go whenever Grant Holmes does start to kind of piggyback them. I don't know if you go into it saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. We get to the second, third time through the order. We're going to go Fuentes. I think you kind of play it, feel it out. But certainly have the quick hook as Walt Weiss did to say, okay, Holmes has reached this limit here. Let's go to somebody else.
Yeah. And for the context there on this, first time through the order for Grant Holmes, no hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, 3 groundouts, 3 lineouts. He has 8 whiffs, 35% CSW. Second time through the order, he gives up the home run to Bregman, 2 total hits, 3 walks, only 3 whiffs, 17% CSW. But I think the big difference, to your point, all 3 of the walks were in the same inning. And kind of like what Elder did on Sunday, they were back to back to back. And all of a sudden you're dealing with the bases loaded. And luckily in his case, he did have, I think he had 1 out on the board at the time when he walked the third one. He gets a ground out. They almost turn a fantastic double play. Ha-Seong Kim gets that up the middle and it looks like he's just going to go to first. He flips to second. Ozzie makes the relay and it's almost in. If Ozzie had better arm strength, that's a double play. And then they get Dansby to strike out. But yeah, I mean, it's nitpicky, right? We win the game. It's a little nitpicky, but I'm starting to think that this is going to end up being a temporary thing. And when you get guys back from injury, you add other pieces, Holmes is going to end up being that guy that gets left in the bullpen because of things like this, where that second time through is when he kind of, and I want to make sure everybody understands he's a very good pitcher the first time through. I mean, no hits, no runs, couple strikeouts. He looked really good. It was the second time is when he really struggled.
Yeah, I just put numbers on that too. So just this season, it's a 629 OPS first plate appearance in a game as a starter, 787 OPS second time through. So those numbers are really big. Now, he hasn't seen a lot of people third time through, but it's a 583 OPS third time through. So that's why I say I don't know if it's necessarily times through the order or if it's just there's just always that one point, in the middle of the game where he just kind of loses it. Either way, I think it's something you do have to monitor going forward with him and knowing when that point is and saying, okay, we gotta pull the plug, and you got to have your bullpen ready to know that, to say, okay, if Grant Holmes all of a sudden loses control, he's walking everybody. And look, the Cubs have the most walks in baseball. We talked about it coming in that this was going to be a tough matchup for Grant Holmes because he is somebody with a walk rate over 10%. Cubs walk the most of anybody. Yep. You felt like that was going to be a pretty tough matchup for him. But just having somebody ready to go down in that bullpen, whether it's Fuentes, Raylo, or Perez, whenever he takes the mound, I think is a smart move.
It's a sad sign of the times, but I'm like, I'd rather have Fuentes than Ronaldo Lopez. It's just, yeah. All right, anyway, in just a minute, let's talk about the pickoffs. Let's talk about some of the other good stuff we saw and final thoughts on this game. We'll do that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. If you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? You're not alone. Keeping track of subscriptions, spending, and bills can get overwhelming fast. And that's where Rocket Money comes in, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. Because Rocket Money tracks all your subscriptions in one spot, and it can help cancel the ones you don't need with just a few taps. It automatically categorizes your spending, so you can actually see where your money is going, and you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It just makes everything feel more organized and gives you a clearer picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Baseball season is here, and now you can trade every game on Kalshi. For Wednesday, the Braves are trading at only 45% to beat the Cubs, meaning a $100 trade pays out $223 if they win. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers at a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade $10. Kalshi, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restriction and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. I have a sobering stat for you, Jake Mastriani. In 2025, the Atlanta Braves, per the broadcast, were picked off on the bases 10 times. In 2026, in 42 games, the Atlanta Braves have been picked off on the bases 10 times. I talked about this over on Braves Today. We put this in the newsletter. The Antoine Richardson thing is a technique, and it takes some time to learn it. And like Juan Soto joined the Mets last year, first time with Richardson, and we didn't really see him pick up on the stolen bases until the second half of the year. After the All-Star break is when he really started running a lot and being incredibly successful. It's frustrating, but you also have the best record in baseball and just beat the second best team in the National League by record. By the way, the Dodgers are no longer in first place. Dodgers are half a game behind the Padres as of right now. Should I, it's frustrating, but should I care that much because it's not stopping you from winning baseball games and just trust they'll fix it? Or is this I've seen calls to fire Antoine Richardson. I'm like, that's not going to happen. That's a little extreme. But how seriously do we need to take this and address it versus, hey, they're going to get there. Have some patience.
I mean, they fired Tuiasosopo pretty early on last year with all the
some of those sins were awful last year.
They were. Look, I'm not calling for Richardson. I was one of the most excited people out there about the Antoine Richardson hire because I really wanted to see this run game be elevated, but this has to stop. The pickoffs have to stop. It is. I understand there's growing pains and you're going to have to learn all of it. And we've seen some of the good things. I mean, we saw Drake Baldwin steal a bag. Austin Riley has stolen a bag or two in there. You've seen some of those things where you're just taking advantage of a pitcher who's not paying attention. And that is part of the Antoine Richardson, school of base running is just picking up on those little tendencies and taking guys who maybe pitchers aren't paying as much attention to and being able to take those free bags. We've seen some of that here lately, but the pickoffs have got to stop. It is just very infuriating. Look, we might have to struggle with it, as you said, to kind of figure it out. And hopefully we get to the midpoint of the season and it's a thing of the past and we're seeing the Braves, near the top 10 of stolen bases. I would love nothing more. And it is great because you're winning. Last year when Tui was having those bad sins, you weren't winning. And so you needed to make a change there. Right now, the Braves are winning despite the base running just not quite picking up what Antoine is teaching right now. But again, hopefully you're going to go through these growing pains and you're going to get out on the other side of it. And it's going to just help elevate this offense even more like we hoped coming into the season.
Yeah. And some of the reasoning was a little bit different. As SoCal Brave so eloquently puts in the chat, Harris Sloan got caught because he has a big butt and he got tagged on the backside. Matt Olson got picked off by a lefty. And Matt Olson's not the guy who was going to steal a bag there, especially with 2 outs. So I just thought it was a little bit odd that he was far enough off of the bag to get picked off by a lefty. But, it is what it is. At least he got the run in first. He got Drake Baldwin in first before that happened. And there's a great point, and it comes back to something that we talked about last year. Here in the chat, I think it's Scooter Puff here. Everybody wanted Tim Hires getting fired last year. Everybody wanted Tim Hires gone in the first half.
I haven't heard anything about Tim Hires this year.
No, nobody seems to be mad about Tim Hires anymore, do they? Give me the second half of the season, the offense was much better, and they would have been able, theoretically, to climb back into contention if not for the fact that the entire pitching staff got hurt. So let's be patient with Antoine Richardson. We can acknowledge it's frustrating. We can acknowledge that it feels like some of these, at least, are down to carelessness. rather than like anything special the other team is doing. They're trying to put the glove on, or they're not really paying attention or whatever, but it's got to get fixed. All right, real quick, we did have a player of the game poll, and I always love this because Jake can never see the results of this until I announce it. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll in the YouTube chat, and we're going to go ahead and announce that.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
For the first time this season, Mike Yastrzemski with 56% of the vote gets player of the game. He had 2 hits, including his first home run of the season. There's somebody in my mentions on Twitter from this afternoon when I put the lineup on social media that said Yaz is going to put one in the chop house tonight. And he absolutely did. Burn the witch. I don't know how that guy knew. I want to copy your sports almanac, but you said it. Hopefully this is the thing that gets him going. Do you, Jake Mastriani, think that they're going to run him out there tomorrow against lefty Shota Imanaga? Or do you give a start to Jose Azocar? Because they put Azocar in the game for Yastrzemski to pinch hit against a lefty later. Do you think that they give Yastrzemski the start? Or do you think he starts off on the bench and as soon as Shota's out, they throw Yaz into the game?
I think they'll start Azocar. Azocar's hit lefties really well at the minor league level this year. When they called him up earlier, they started him against the lefty. As you mentioned, they put him in. So I think they'll start Azocar, but then you'll see Yastrzemski get into the game. But either way, I mean, a good one for him. He had multiple hits. People probably forget the first 2 games of the year, he had multiple hits, and then he had another multiple hit game on April 28th, and then his one today. So just fourth time this year, he's had multiple hits in a game. So again, good for him. I talked about on the podcast today where I said, you can't put him in the lineup. He's not. It's your best lineup's not with him in there once everybody's fully healthy. And I still think that's probably the case because the guy that he's competing with, Dom Smith, went 4 for 4 today. And so it's really hard. But as I also said on the podcast, they're paying him a chunk of money. Like he's going to get opportunities. They're going to give him at bats. And I do believe that the power will come around eventually because that's what we've seen every year of his career. He's never had lower than a 170 ISO. It's going to come around. I get like with the base running, you just might have to be a little bit more patient with it, and you can afford to do that a little bit because of the good start you've gotten out to.
Yeah, I think that's the saving grace here is you have that runway where you can absolutely kind of wait for him to get along, and you're absolutely fine. I am going to regret any game, though, where Dom Smith is not the DH because to your point, he was out for a week and he just comes in and goes 4 for 4. He scores from first, maybe for either first or second on a base hit, the second on a base hit. And I went in the research tool to pull up the sprint speed. And of course, they didn't have it, probably out of respect to Dom for what he was doing. He was doing that big fella hustle thing you can see where he's moving pretty hard. He's not moving very fast. He's just running pretty hard. But happy for him, and hopefully he gets plenty of run. All right, tomorrow's game, 7:15 p.m. again, Shota Imanaga versus J.R. Ritchie. You had to use some of your leverage relievers tonight and one of your longmen. You didn't have to use Robert Suarez. Is there any chance against the team that draws the most walks in baseball that J.R. Ritchie can give you another 6-7 inning start? Or is the goal here just 5 and dive and let's go to the pen because it's been a great pen?
Yeah, I think if you get 5 innings from JR tomorrow and he, keeps them at 2-3 earned or less, I think you take that. Okay. Hopefully he gets the under control and throws some more strikes. I mean, the stuff is good enough. It's just always that mental hurdle for a young pitcher of, hey, my stuff is good enough to compete in the zone. But yeah, he's definitely has struggled with the strikeouts or has struggled with the walks. I saw the message pop up about the strikeouts. Yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, this Braves pitching staff, even with all of the walks, even the walks that you had in the Dodgers series, Strider only allowed 1 hit, Bryce Elder only allowed 1 hit. Like the Braves pitching staff has been fantastic at limiting hits. It's really just the walks that they've struggled with a little bit. And maybe that's just trying to be, a little too perfect here and there and living on the edges, which has resulted in them not giving up any hits. So we'll see. Again, like I said, with Holmes, it's not the greatest matchup for J.R. Ritchie just because of all the walks so far. But even with that, he's competed every time out there and given his team a chance to win. So I expect him to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, I'll actually, it's just, I have high hopes for J.R. Ritchie, just, kind of what he's going to be able to do and hopefully keeps you in this. It's going to be fun to watch Shota Imanaga and kind of see what he does. That'll do it for the Braves Postcast. Make sure you're subscribed, both Locked On Sports Atlanta. They were talking Falcons just today. A lot of stuff coming out of minicamp, as well as Locked On Braves. Jake has had a ton of stuff, whether it's prospect stuff with Gorov, whether it's being able to threaten some of these Braves players into performing on the field. Locked On Braves is magic. And so make sure that you are subscribed and you know what's going to happen before the game happens that night. And then after the game, come here and we'll talk about why things happened the way they did. For Jake Mastriani, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.